Hello and welcome to Barbara's Podcast. This is the show for women, all about health, nutrition, and wellness. It's the show that will empower you and inspire you to create a healthier lifestyle.
Hello and welcome to the show where we explore the world of holistic health and wellness. Today I'm excited to introduce Jeanne Grant, who is the Executive Director of the Lyme Revive Foundation. Welcome, Jeanne.
Hi, welcome. Thank you. It's great to be here.
Well, you have a very interesting and remarkable journey with Lyme disease. Can you take us back to the beginning? What were those early days like? And how did you go from active mom to being bedridden for 3 years?
So in 2006, so I have 5 children, and we lived in Northern Virginia at the time. And in 2006, we built a home in the country on the river and started a horse farm. And at that time, my children were 3 to 11 in age, the 5 of them. And I was very active. I did weights at the gym twice a week. I ran 4 times a week, and then I rode the horses and everything. And slowly over time, I just started losing energy. I got a neck ache and a backache. And if I worked out, I didn't have energy later. So it was just like this struggle of not being able to do what I would normally do. And my husband was researching everything, like hormones, that sort of thing. And we were literally in the middle of the woods. And so we had tick bites. So we'd ride horses. We had ATVs. My sons would hunt and fish, and it was just beautiful country life. And so I just slowly, and headaches. I had always had headaches, at least like with my cycle or just throughout my life. Like I had them early when they said that you really couldn't have them. But it wasn't debilitating where it really kept me from doing stuff. I could just take a migraine pill and it'd go away. Well, I started getting them every day. And then they started getting worse and worse until, and I started getting more and more tired. And I also got a rash on my stomach, which the doctor thought was poison ivy. And my friends were like, I think you have Lyme. Because they had Lyme and they could identify it. And I was like, no way, I don't have Lyme. Like, I am not taking that on. Well, I was going to a chiropractor and bringing my daughter who had back pain. And we would go and he would adjust us. And then we'd go to the car, we'd be fine. We'd get home and our pain would be back. And she was probably 13. And I was in the office one day and we'd go a couple times a week. And I said, oh, my son, I think he was probably 8. He was either 8 or 10 at the time. I was like, I need to bring him. He's got he has back trouble. And the doctor looked at me and he was like, I think you guys have Lyme. No 8-year-old has back trouble. So that was the beginning of discovering. And so I went and my friends directed me where to go, because if you look it up, it's so confusing. And so I took the IGeneX test and it came back positive. And then I had to discover finding a doctor. Well, and now this was 2014, and to get a Lyme doctor, you had to apply and write out like an essay of why you should be their patient. And then my girlfriend, her uncle had been in a wheelchair and he went and he got better somewhat. And so there was a cancellation and I was able to get into that doctor. But it was like a 2-hour drive. My first appointment was $800. But I was very hopeful. I was like, oh my gosh, I'm getting better. Like then now we know what it is. Well, that was the beginning of the nightmare, because and basically I was treated with antibiotics, which most doctors recommend. A holistic doctors don't, but I didn't know. Like, I fully believed in them, but that's when I became bedridden, and my headaches got worse and worse. I had a PICC line for 8 months, so I kind of looked like a cancer patient with the netting on my arm, and then we discovered that issues with my kids. Like, when I got done, I'm like, oh, that explains it. So 3 of my kids had it. And let me just say too, what spurred it on that I realized later is that we had trauma. We had my best friend in the neighborhood, her husband killed himself, and we were best friends. And I won't get into the details, but it was horrific. And they had a 8, 10, and 12-year-old that my kids played with every day. And I saw them right before it happened. And so that, I find a lot of people that have Lyme, there's an event that brings their immune system down. And so their body can't fight it. So, but anyhow, my kids, 3 of my kids ended up getting sicker and sicker. And where they were kind of in and out of school. I think my son in 3rd grade missed 60 something days. And they were also suicidal. Like, they were just very depressed and anxious. And that, was very traumatic for me. So and my poor husband had to take care of everybody. And so that was where we were. We found out my oldest daughter was into heavy duty drugs and was a cutter. And it was really self-medicating. And today she recovered and went to college, but it's because we were able to get rid of it. But how that happened was my husband at the time, well, actually for 20 years, he left a couple of years ago, but he worked for a big global law firm and headed up business development. So he wasn't an attorney, but in that role, he would get clients by helping them get venture capital and find CEOs and, help them build their business for free. And then they became clients. So he met a small mom and pop company that said they had a cure for cancer and wanted patent information. And so when he met them, he was like, oh my gosh, if you can cure cancer, do you know anything about Lyme? And the fellow was like, yeah, I think I can kill it. And so he sent us, and it's mineral based. So it's all natural, but it's very, like, it's patented. It's very secretive. It's very difficult to produce. Very special. But anyhow, he sent us bottles, and we nebulized for 60 days, once a day, 20 drops, and gradually got better. But it was a gradual healing, which is what's really hard about Lyme. So we were all kind of healed at different ways. Like, the anxiety takes a long time to go away, but like, if I told you each of the story of my kids, like, it's just complete miracles because they all had different things, because Lyme will affect your system depending on your weaknesses or your diet or, your lifestyle.
Digestive. Yeah.
Yeah, we didn't, well, my kids actually ended up having terrible digestive issues because of the antibiotics. And even though we would take probiotics, like, they ended up not being able to eat. And that's when we went off the antibiotics, because their systems couldn't take it. And the gentleman that healed me suggested that we take probiotics for animals. And that a vet had suggested that to him because animals have to be eaten. And so they're very strict on the guidelines that they put in for the probiotics. And that actually healed us, healed their stomachs pretty quick because we were trying everything. But
That
so
is very, very interesting to hear.
yeah, and they're kind of superpowered, and they have the digestive enzymes, and so I ended up. These guys were like really, they're scientists, and they were like, "Oh my gosh, we didn't know anything really about it." So they dropped their cancer research and started studying Lyme, and we were like a team. And they discovered it's in your saliva. And what they did was they were like, okay, who? So Lyme is a spirochete.
Yeah.
And so they were like, who's the spirochete expert? And they found a gentleman in California who was an oral surgeon, and talked to him. And basically the surgeon was like, you know, chlorhexidine kills it in the mouth. Like he tried everything and he could get it gone in the mouth. Like he had a microscope. And he goes, but the next time they come back, it's all back. And so my guys were like, oh my gosh, it's systemic. So it's coming up through the body fluids into the mouth. And so we were on a journey for 5 years working together. And they studied, and the reason we knew it worked was because we would look at saliva before and after. And what was really interesting is, like 8 months into after, we had taken them and were healed, they looked at my family's saliva, all of us. And the people that didn't do the mineral formula they had it. And, but like my husband had no symptoms. So so that was like, oh my gosh. And so when we looked at whole families across the board, it was in the whole family. But it doesn't mean it doesn't mean it's, you can be a carrier, put it that way. But we did find out over time that it's kind of like lice. If you have a member in the family that's very chronic, if you don't treat everybody, they almost have like an allergic reaction when the body detects the exposure, and it doesn't happen to everybody, but it happens to a lot. Then you can be symptomatic as your body's like fighting it. So, and it'll take a while to get reinfected, but in the meantime you're feeling terrible. And we kind of figured that out through my daughter dating. Like she'd go on a date and then come home with a headache. Like she would have a different symptom depending on what they had, based on what she had had. And we have found that can go away over time. But it takes time for the symptom memory, cellular memory in the body to go away. But like I don't really detect it anymore in other people, but I did it first. Like if we were in a car, it's in breath. And so I would just start getting like this brain fog headache, and then it'd go away.
Well, let me take you back to the formulation. I'm very curious to see what sort of minerals and herbs are in that formulation.
So it's copper, zinc, magnesium, and an inactive ingredient, sulfur. Okay. So but it's super powered. It's super powered. It has killed multiple very common diseases that are determined incurable. So and so the inventor actually gave the formulation to our Lyme Revive Foundation. My husband's law firm saw many people healed miraculously, and so they they are our attorneys, Cooley LLP. they're one of the top life science firms. They took it on and they patented it for free because it's in the foundation,
Yeah.
and which the foundation has the rights for Lyme disease. And then every other application is licensed to a corporation of a core group of people that the inventor, like his estate. You know, he died a couple years ago, but he was in his 80s and he was like, this has to get to the world. And so the corporation, that's their duty. But you know, you have to there's things you have to do, like we're going through trials, you know, well, we're just starting some human trials, but you know, there's a whole process. It takes a lot,
Yeah, I
and
can
that's,
imagine. It
but
must.
there's nothing you have to, like you can't, nobody could get the formula and figure out what's in it. Like it becomes a whole new formula, you know, when you test it. But getting, you know, it's difficult to produce. You know, you have to have a special lab, and so, but it's completely safe. Um, you know, because it's and the key thing is you have for a Lyme, you have to cross the blood brain barrier. They love the brain, and the minerals, the body will, you know, every cell requires it. And I think we're really pretty depreciated or depleted of these minerals. And that's why it's so profound. You know, from our soils, it's mostly copper.
Yeah.
And just for example, my father-in-law in the fall was diagnosed with Alzheimer's.
Yes.
And you know, and he was really at a point where he really couldn't have conversation, like he didn't recognize my sister or my mother, who we're very close to. My husband was able to talk them into doing the minerals. And today, and so that was in October or in May, he's almost completely normal in his thinking, and like he's like, I'm like, my brain is every day I'm like, it's coming back. um so I believe Alzheimer's, maybe not all of them, I think there can be different things, but um is Lyme. And
Yeah.
there are studies that show that, you know, and there's other spirochetes, treponines can cause that too. It's not just Borrelia, but spirochetes can get in the brain. And
Yeah.
Dennis, no.
Well, I would just like to ask for those, let's say, currently battling chronic illness, especially ones that are misunderstood, like Lyme. What are some of the practical steps that they can take right now to regain hope and move towards healing? You know, having you've gone through it. It's been a family affair. You're well
So,
experienced, so
yeah. So I believe most autoimmune issues relate to Lyme. The doctors are not trained to test for it. I mean, there are some, you know, it's starting to gain a little bit of more knowledge, but you really have to take command of your own. And number one, eat whole foods. You know, processed foods can cause, you know, that's part of issues. It's a whole lifestyle, but
yeah.
get tested. Like the tests are getting better. Um, I I recently started working with a doctor who does bioresonance testing, and we are actually studying people, even like going through the minerals, the ones that, because like a third feel better right away, a third take a couple months, and then a third take like a year because their body, you know, but they've been chronic 10, 20 years, you know, it takes time to come back. And we're using so bioresonance is really like an energetic, like, and it's kind of, I mean, it's very, you know, everything has a signature. And so it's helping us see, okay, what systems are down that need assistance and that sort of thing. But, you know, good testing. And you, what I have seen, even what I've seen with people that like don't have access to the minerals that have gotten better, they go to a doctor that really looks at their body holistically and builds up their immune system. like our immune system is key. I think emotional healing is a big deal. Because like unforgiveness, trauma, um, you know, it's a part of it. It's kind of like it's layered, but if you know that you have that, because for instance, when I meet somebody and they're like, oh yeah, I'm gluten free, sugar free,
Yeah.
carb free, all that. I'm like, oh, you probably have it, because you feel better. It kind of drives you to um, watching what you eat, or if they have stomach issues, it can be foundational, or thyroid. Thyroid's the main thing. But if you just don't feel well and you go to a doctor and they're like, I can't see, you look fine. Well, they don't look for Lyme. And so get tested. Um, what I'm doing with the foundation, and the website has a lot of development to do, but I, it's an educational platform. You know, we're going to have the tests that a lot of the doctors are finding are accurate, because back in 2014 there weren't many, and it's expensive. Like I think I paid 2,000 to get my testing. That's a lot of money, and we had 4 of us going to doctors. I mean, we were going broke. And that's what happens to these people. They keep trying thing after thing, they do these protocols and they're broke. I mean, people spend hundreds of thousands, and when they come to me and they're like, I don't have any money, you know. So we do offer the minerals for less than 10% than what we sold it for 5 years ago. And to make it like, we don't make a lot on it at all. It's really because families are traumatized. There's divorces, because there's something called Lyme rage where you cannot think. And so you're just kind of grumpy, hurting people hurt people. And so our goal in the foundation is to educate, and we're learning, we're researching, and we also, so that's going to grow. It's kind of in an infancy right now, but you need to go, I would go to a doctor that looks at your immune system and is like, okay, you need to eat these foods. Let's do these things naturally. If you take, if you just like go after them to kill them, it's almost like it's like kicking a bee's nest. But if you focus on healing the body, like detox, most people with Lyme have the MTHFR factor. And I think that kind of underlies Lyme, because they're finding now that those people, that's your well-being and it's your energy. And so you're deficient in bees. And the anxiety, you can't turn off your anxiety. And really what you need to do is take methylated vitamins, and like a methylated vitamin B complex, and it can shift you huge to where your body can start fighting. But we're just discovering that. And so basic, getting sunshine, getting sleep, emotional healing, forgiving people, grounding, going outside and standing on the earth, those types of things, it's play a part. And I would say the detoxing, and then there can be parasites. What happens is the body just becomes more sensitive. Like a lot of Lyme people have mold issues. Well, it's not always the case where they have mold in the house. It's just that the systems are so down, they can't process what's in the air normally, because these things are in the air. And I believe Lyme is in the air. It's very It's in the whole world. But most people function fine, it's just like other stuff that's around, that our bodies are like, nope. So, oh, one more thing. It's in your saliva. Brush your teeth with baking soda and rinse with hydrogen peroxide. Don't swallow the hydrogen peroxide, but you could start feeling a lot better that way. Because they are like, I have some recessed gums. I have a couple crowns. I always, when I meet people and help them through their healing, I'm like, do you have any root canals? Because that can really slow your healing, because it's a dead area where the immune system can't get. And that takes a while to clean out, even with the minerals. But so helping your body detox, keeping your mouth really clean, those are huge in helping build up your own immune system.
You're basically describing a very holistic form of healing.
Natural, like so for example, I was on Zoloft for 15 years, and I didn't go off my med. I mean, I was on Ativan, I was on lamotrigine, a couple of my kids were too, but you know what? It kept them alive at the time. But there's kava kava,
Yeah.
natural things. I just learned through talking to the doctor I work with, it's stinging nettle tea. If you're overproducing histamines, you can take that even while you're on the minerals. And, there's, all these, I've learned so much where, God created so many things for us naturally. And when you start taking the pharmaceuticals, it's poison. Your DNA doesn't jive with it.
No.
And so, like for the Zoloft, so for my pharmaceuticals that I was on, I went off of them gradually. But because I realized, oh my gosh, it's keeping me from producing serotonin. Like, it can help you initially where you're like, oh, wow, I feel better. But then it stops working. But 15 years.
That's a long time.
But the other thing too is the, all the flowers, flour grains, they're enriched. Well, they're enriched with folic acid, which if you have the MTHFR factor, it's not good for you. I mean, if you don't, it helps, but that's man-made. It's not natural. And that can create great havoc in your whole digestive system. And they don't tell you that. So that's where eating whole foods in itself, and they say 45% of Americans have it. And have you heard about people being anxious all
Yes.
over the place? Like all my kids' friends, and it's that I believe part of it is the MTHFR factor, where they can't, and they're eating all these processed foods with folic acid, and it's like they're so deficient. And there's something about the methylation, and the whole digestive system where you're not able to get serotonin if you have that factor, or you're getting the folic acid. And so then you're anxious and you can't turn it off, and you're like, why I shouldn't be anxious. And that's what we all had. And so that just complicates it, because when you're in fight or flight, your whole systems are down, and it's like putting oil in the gas tank, so we don't function.
Yeah. I was reading about the THFR, and I actually work with it's a German company called Makewell, and they produce supplements to help people heal from Lyme. And they recently released a supplement for people with MTHFR. So it's becoming quite well known now that there
It
are
makes
people.
a huge difference. I
Yes.
actually did a little study with my brother. Um,
Yeah.
so he did the minerals a while ago, and we tested it, but his family wouldn't, which then you're exposed. And we tested him like a year later, and he had Lyme. We did the bioresonance testing, but it was pretty low. I mean, it showed up, but it was, it wasn't like, out of control yet. But I just learned about the MTHFR factor, and I was like, oh, let's see if you have that, which through the testing company, through this doctor, it's offered for like $100, $150, whereas if you go to a clinic, it's 700. But anyhow, we tested and he had it. And I said, okay, let's have you take methylated vitamins, do the multivitamin and then the B complex for a month or two. And then let's go back and look at your Lyme levels. And, don't take the minerals. Let's just see. And he did that. And when we went back and looked, his Lyme was lower.
Wow.
It wasn't off his comprehensive, it was still an issue stressing the body, but it was down. And that to me was very tough because, it's systemic where you got to look at the body as a whole and not all these little pieces. And what we found, like for me, when I did the minerals, and even my kids, one of my daughters, I finally took her to, because the endocrinologist was like, there's nothing wrong with her. And she was gaining 30 pounds a year and had a big belly. And my friend suggested I go to this one doctor who, was Lyme literate. And we went and sat in his office, and I was talking to him because the endocrinologists were like, there's nothing wrong. Stop eating. And he went to his bookshelf, pulled off a book, and showed me the cover, and it looked just like her belly. Like she looked pregnant. And the title of the book was Bartonella.
Wow.
And after doing the mineral, and also she couldn't learn in school since she got it when she was little. And she would fail every test. But she was smart. It's not like she was,
Yeah.
They just said, below average memory. And I was like, well, she has Lyme. And they're like, nope, I've never seen it come back. Well, after doing the minerals, it took, so 2 years later, I took her back to that doctor. When he tested her, we did 17 vials. Everything was off. Like she had everything, and he put her on all these supplements. Well, it was all gone. Every bit of it. And it wasn't anything we did. We did the minerals. And that was enough to get her systems, like her vitamin D, they wanted her on like the 50,000 unit, but she was low in that. We didn't do anything extra other than probiotics. And she was totally normal. She lost 85 pounds. She was the one dating. And it took a year, but it takes a year for the brain to heal. So 9 months later, she took her SOL, standard of learning, at the end of the year that you take. And I was like, oh my gosh, she's so much better. She'll do well. Nope.
Yeah.
She healed him. And the guy that healed us said it takes a year from what I see. The next fall, like 15 months later, they had her retake the test. She didn't even study, and she passed.
Oh,
And she was a junior in high school. So she had all these years of being subpar, and that the rest of her time in high school, she was on the honor roll. Now she was still in the the lower classes, but she was totally on the honor roll and was able to go to college. And before the minerals, like she couldn't have even driven. Her balance, her reaction time was like
lower.
But it took time. And that's why I really like this bioresonance testing, because when people at 60 days, if they've been sick 30 years, are like, it didn't work, I don't feel well, I'm like, well, let's run the test. here's a very discounted price. Let's see what systems are off. And then we find, oh, there's a parasite. Oh, you have inflammation. You're not detoxing yet. It takes time. It just
Absolutely.
takes time. Like it took my daughter a year for the brain.
That's what people need to realize. It does take time. And
Well,
healing is in stages. You've got
yeah,
to perhaps remove the pathogens first, and then maybe do a detox, and then you replenish and heal. So you add in your probiotics, prebiotics. I usually do that in stages.
and if you don't detox well, you have to. I mean, and that's the other thing with the minerals. We're like, get off your supplements, because I was on like 30 of them. I mean, you spend a fortune. And not to say, but that's where right now we're researching. Like we're doing a study with some different people, and with this testing, you can really, um, you can kind of monitor. And now we're deciding, and this is like the doctor I'm working with. Hey, let's have people detox for 5 days before they start, and maybe do some diatomaceous earth to get rid of some of the parasites.
Yeah.
The minerals do help with parasites, but like we just had a guy that had a parasite after doing the minerals. It's not like they kill everything. Um, so that's what we're kind of studying people now. And like the ones that'll give me permission to, talk with the doctor and look at the tests, and because you don't want to detox the minerals out. You can't take binders; it might get bound.
Yeah.
And you be careful. Um, and like she'll even look at like genetics, and there's a lot you can look at with this testing very quickly and easily.
And how is this testing done? Is it through blood, through
Is so you send in a a few hairs pulled from the scalp, a
okay.
little fingernail clipping, and saliva first thing in the morning,
Yeah.
because it can look at hormones, but it's basically your DNA and everything.
Okay.
Um, and so it's pretty amazing, because it'll tell you what species you have, everything. This particular test is from a Quest 4
Okay.
uh, machine, not machine, but program. And so they update it all the time. It has like 40,000 program things. And it also has loaded in, you can load natural. It's all, it's kind of a natural company, but you can connect to a lot of natural products and companies. It's for practitioners, where you can ask it what would be best for this person.
Yes.
And it'll do however you know what you make of it, but it's good for animals too.
So, well, in closing, where can our listeners get in touch with you?
Lyme Revive Foundation, so it's lymerevive.org. um, or you could give them my email. I am happy to help people and guide them. And coach them, because you need coaching, or
Yes.
lead them to the right. I'm getting ready to start a private membership association where you can talk freely, and people can, create a community where you can share. We can make things. It's mostly educational. It's gonna. I haven't. I'm working on it, but it'll be listed on Lyme Revive Foundation, um, and or emailing me.
Well, I'll definitely add. I could add your website in the show notes. But
Okay,
well, thank you, Jeanne, for sharing your expertise and insights with us today. It's been an absolute pleasure having you as my guest, and thank you again for your time.
Oh, thank you. It's an honor. It was a great pleasure.
Thanks for listening to Barbara's podcast. Don't forget to sign up for our newsletter or e-courses. Celebrate life, and see you at the next episode.